Hello and welcome to another match from the Sakura Spring Championship in the Fall for Samurai section. This is another round one best of three match played between two players who featured before on this channel many times. Atlantis in white and Mishelka in dark blue. The map is Hida Mountains, which was picked by Mishelka. And I'm gonna go over the army of Atlantis first. So over on the left, going towards the workshop, he does bring two lines, a Red Bear and the Shogunate Guard Infantry, supported by a Yarikachi rank 1. In the center, he has a Red Bear and a US Marine going towards the shrine. And on the right side, he does bring a Red Bear rank 2 with some reload upgrades, it seems, and a Red Bear Vanilla. Calf-wise, he does have, let's see, Yariki rank 2, Revolver Calf, Yariki Vanilla, Yariki rank 1, Revolver Calf, Yariki rank 2, and a Bushido General, interestingly, which he has played for a long time by now. The right side dojo is a farmhouse, so probably negligible for both. And Mishelka does bring a full gun general with extended range and gun bate. Then he has a White Bear, US Marine, Infanterie de Marine, interesting, Red Bear, Red Bear, White Bear, Red Bear. So yeah, just a bunch of Red Bears, White Bears, and two Marines. And calf-wise, he's a bit weaker, so 4 Yariki Vanilla that we see for now, but I heavily suspect that there's also some gun calf probably hidden around here. So let's get this going. Did I mention the spear levy? So he also has the spear levy. So it's quite common to go with somewhat of a melee component on Hida Mountains, especially if you prioritize this side, where line of sight can be quite difficult, both on this hill over here, but also here. This is deceptively uneven, and sometimes you do not really get proper volleys here. Especially from this side, it's rather difficult. Mishelka faces the same problem here with this general trying to get some shots in, realizing he has no line of sight. Yeah, especially like the inclusion of the Shogunate Guard Infantry, which is a unit that is played a lot on Hida Mountains, especially on this over here on this side. So if you need a guard unit to strengthen your flank, but you cannot really make use of the extended range, then Shogunate Guard Infantry is the way to go, and that's the exact situation that he's faced with here. Also, the Yarikachi well positioned for downhill charge, protected by terrain and by the forest. So I think this is a decent positioning by Atlantis. And Mishelka obviously has to make his advantage count, being that he has 2 150 Marines. Though interesting that he decides to pair them right next to each other. So he really wants to lock down one specific region, which appears to be the region in between the shrine and the workshop. Although Atlantis does get the first volley of from these US Marines, which are better positioned here, because basically the entire unit is faced towards the Infanterie de Marine, whereas the Infanterie de Marine is kind of facing nothing, so they have to shoot somewhat left-sided against this Red Bear while being threatened by the US Marine. So this isn't a good position for him to be in, and he rightfully decides to pull back with the Infanterie Marine to regroup. This was a fake charge by the Yariki on the US Marine, probably a good idea to fall back, because this US Marine from Atlantis is well protected. And overall, you can see by the minimap and the positioning that Mishelka takes a very defensive approach, despite being the attacker here. So this is a well understandable approach here. If you have two 150s, you do not want to rush anything, and you're more keen on protecting your flanks and taking it slow, one by one. Especially with the Gunbate General, you can afford to take longer line engagements and prolonged infantry fights. That's kind of your goal. There is no archery dojo on the map, so yeah, this is an advantage that is basically guaranteed to Mishelka for the entirety of the battle. So yeah, what he's really looking for is the regular line infantry engagements. Although it looks like Atlantis is going to cap this workshop very soon, only furthering his already pre-existing cavalry advantage. And yeah, nothing too much happening here. Let's go to normal speed. But one thing that could be worth pointing out is that so far these two Marines haven't really been put into action, and the main goal for Mishelka should be to get them firing as soon as possible. Otherwise, it's kind of a waste of money because they're very expensive. And what I also want to point out here, just before Atlantis is making his move here, probably, look at this imbalance in positioning. So there's basically two flanking red bears being fended off by 4 infantry units by Mishelka that are turning this direction. So this is probably too much from Mishelka. He doesn't really need that many lines over here. They could be used somewhere else, surely. And here it looks like he's rather thin. So it's probably a good idea to strengthen his right side with a bit more cav. Has to be careful here with his general that he doesn't suffer too much from stray bullets. But positionally, I think this is looking very strong from Atlantis. He basically has the initiative, even without moving, he has the initiative because he has a more mobile build. He has the hill advantage here. He can basically decide when to engage, which is really luxury when you're off against 2 150 Marines. Because they cannot really pressure here. Just look at this terrain. These US Marines are misplaced. They can be useful here, but only when the opponent is putting on pressure in this area. Then this is a nice area to shoot down from. But to attack here uphill with a US Marine, I think this is a waste of money, and it's likely not going to end too well. So look here. White bear curiously losing to this red bear. This looked to be a very even engagement for long. Now I think they might have a shuffle bug or they're moving. There could be a slight elevation advantage for the red bears. But yeah, let's go back to normal speed here. This feels like one of those battles where nothing happens for long, and then one attack of the cavalry just changes everything and decides the game in just a few seconds, and maybe we'll see one of those engagements here.
An ambush, General!
Although I think this is just a decoy, I don't think there will be too much follow-up here. I still think the main engagement will take place in and around the Sword Dojo, but let's see. So Atlantis obviously trying to get a charge into the Infantry de Marine. A nice interception by Mishelka, although now Mishelka or Atlantis has, or is going to have, I think, 2 units supporting this fight, firing into this cavalry blob. So this throwing this half-strength Yariki in to bait out a block of a full-strength Yari Cav and to force the retreat of the Infantry de Marine. I think this is a very good engagement from Atlantis and a good example of how to initiate in Fall of the Samurai. Just throw in a Cav with proper line backup, and you don't even need to make sure that your cavalry wins. It just needs to pin down the right amount of units with the correct timing, and you're good to go. And this looks to be a very good engagement for Atlantis. Nice capture of the space in and around the shrine. I don't know if he's going to cap the shrine now. It's definitely something that he could try. But yeah, it looks like, as I said before, the main action is going to happen in and around the workshop. Yarikachi, they're going to massacre the spear levy, not just because of hill down advantage, but yeah, just compare these melee stats. The spear levy are going to get destroyed, and then afterwards there's a clear path forward onto these US Marines. This looks to be rather messy. I don't know how the charge from Atlantis looked.
Sir, I fear your general is in mortal peril,
Mishelka
sir.
popped Ganbate, which is going to be a big help also in cavalry fights. Which is why I think even a full gun general can be quite strong, even in melee against a full Bushido gen because of the Ganbate ability, if it's timed correctly. Here it looks like Atlantis doesn't have a proper follow-up with his 2 calves, whereas Mishelka manages to regroup this white bear, which might at some point be able to fire into this fight. So this would then be cost efficient, I think, for Mishelka. And let's see now. I think most of the units that were used to initiate have now died off. And now this is kind of the aftermath, where the units that look to gain a positional advantage during the first skirmish are fighting it out. So here we have a US Marine firing upon a White Bear. Infanterie de Marine might be able to return fire very soon, but I think overall this US Marine is going to be very happy here. Still almost full strength and firing away. Here the US Marine finally started firing. They might kill off these Yarikachi, but then again, this is still not cost efficient for the US Marines, I think. And here we do have a Shogun Accord infantry, which isn't angled properly. It looks kind of messy here. I think the right side of the unit is being attacked by the US Marines, and the left side is going to get shot by the White Bear. So in theory, I think this Shogun Accord infantry can kill off this White Bear, but it needs to turn a little bit to be better protected from the Marines. This revolver calf is taking a lot of damage. Let's see if it's going to get a shot off. It's actually stabilizing, so yeah, I think this White Bear is going to get destroyed from Mishelka. This is a very nice move. And he might even be able to go through here now and kill off Mishelka's general with a revolver calf. He has an attack order, so he noticed it soon enough. Let's see if he's going to actually kill it. Also, the cavalry from Atlantis actually won. So I think I somewhat underestimated here the calf advantage of the upgraded Yariki, coupled with the workshop. But no, the rover calf is putting back now, so Mishelka managed to save his general in the last moment. But now the momentum is fully on the side of Atlantis. The US Marine still full strength. This US Marine from Mishelka is going to feel the pressure now from 35 Yarikachi, Shogun Guard, and yeah, in theory, you could say 5 calf units that could all pounce at every second and kill off this US Marine, which he probably should do right now. I don't think Atlantis has any need really to pull back with the calf here. There's nothing really to be afraid of. But even this one Shogun Guard, 100 men firing downhill, is going to get a decent amount of damage on this US Marine. So this is well played overall so far. And here the White Bear of Mishelka had to get really up close to be able to return fire on the US Marine. And only now, after so much has happened on the right side, Mishelka decides to move up on the left, where he has the numerical advantage of 3 bear infantry against 2. But with no calf in the play, and now he actually conceded, this is very difficult for Mishelka to initiate. So you always need either melee or cavalry if you really want to push on and to pressure your opponent. And he wasn't able to do that. So it was probably more of a mistake in the first place to place as many infantry units on the left side. But probably less so than the overall positioning of the US Marine and the Infanterie de Marine, which cost a lot of money, which meant that he was at a big calf disadvantage from the get-go, and he didn't really get a lot of value out of those 2 units. If you compare it to the one US Marine from Atlantis, almost 200 kills, and most of these kills were on high-value targets. I think it's quite clear who managed the Marines better positionally. Yarikachi actually not that efficient in the end. I mean, they killed off the spear levy, which meant that the US Marines were it was easier to target the US Marines. So in a sense, you could say that they were utilized properly given the circumstances. But there weren't really damage dealers here. I mean, that's just how strong Marines are. They're still number 1, number 2, but so much more potential from these 2 units. And yeah, Calf just got massacred, it would seem. Yeah, it's actually kind of underrated to take the initiative in front of the Samurai, I think. because so often it puts you into a better position for the infantry to follow up and to shoot down enemy cav, even if in the initial fight your cav is losing to enemy cav. If it means that you get a proper position for the infantry to follow up and to get firing like 3-4 seconds earlier than the enemy infantry, then it doesn't really matter that you lose the cav fight, because the opponent's cav is going to get fired upon anyway and it's going to die. I think this was really well executed from Atlantis, who's always a very strong player on Hida Mountains. And yeah, this makes it 1-0 in his favor, and I'll hop straight into battle number 2.
And we're back on Rice Fields, which was picked by Atlantis. Here we have a sword dojo and a shrine, so only 2 dojos again here due to the common bug on this map. Going over Mishelka's build first. So he's brought a revolver on the right, Yariki rank 2. In fact, he's brought 4 of those, and a second revolver. Then he has Red Bear, Red Bear, Red Bear, Azure Dragon Force, Red Bear, White Bear, and a Black Tortoise hidden in this forest patch. And probably the most interesting unit here on the battlefield is the rank 2 Armstrong gun with slight upgrades in accuracy. Very interesting to see on Rice Fields, not that uncommon actually. And his general is, I think, an unchanged command and gun general, although mostly command. Yeah, let's go over Atlantis' counter setup. He has brought Yariki rank 2, Yariki rank 0, Revolver Cav. And the same combination of 3 calves on the left again. Then he has brought Red Bears, Azure Dragon Force, Black Tortoise, Azure Dragon Force, Red Bear, and a Royal Marine rank 5. So interestingly, both have brought so many Red Bears that they also brought some Azure Dragon Force, which are very similar in terms of stats and price. That's basically the only reason why you would bring them. His general is still a Bushido gen, so that's also a noticeable difference. But other than that, I think when it comes to the approach, the biggest difference is the 150 for Atlantis versus no 150 for Mishelka, but instead the Armstrong gun. And that's the main difference in the setup here. So let's have a look at how they position. A lot of the development here will come down onto things like the first volley. So let's see here. Looks like Mishelka will get the first 2 volleys actually, 2 bear units against 1. The return fire coming a bit late from Atlantis, but nothing too dramatic as this is just 4 bear units exchanging fire. Let's have a look at what the artillery is targeting. I would assume the Marines. Yes, although only 10 kills so far, so no fatal hit in the center of the unit, but more so on the outer vicinity. And I think we're gonna get an early cav fight. So Yariki for Atlantis going in. Not full volley, but a couple of shots from the revolvers, which were positioned right next to each other, now falling back. I think this Yariki is obviously going to die, and this is now all about the follow-up. So if he can get his revolver to get a proper volley in, combined with a good Yariki charge, then this might turn out to be okay in the end. But again, every cav fight involving revolver cav is super hard to predict. And this is just a small advantage probably in the bigger picture, but this nice little forest position gives an extra bit of protection for this revolver. I like this positioning very much. It's not redline camping because this is full of action and there wasn't even any time to camp, and both are very close to the red line, so this is fine. But yeah, overall, these early engagement look to be slightly beneficial to Mishelka, who is, or so far has been able to punish the more aggressive moves from Atlantis. So very messy here. But it's also understandable that Mishelka here really doesn't want to take the initiative in the cav fight, just needs to defend with his revolvers, because when it comes to this artillery unit, time is money. He really needs to ideally fire off the entire ammo that this Armstrong gun has. Let's have a look at the center. Royal Marines down 220, so 40 kills for the Armstrong guns, which is okay for this early stage of the battle, I think. Mishelka, slight micro mistake here. No reason really to get his Red Bear shot at. They're not really protecting any dojo or anything. He just needs to pull them back a little bit.
Lily-livered cowards!
And
Running, sir.
yeah, calf-wise, let's see. Did Atlantis move all his calf to the left? It would look that way. And in that sense, there's now 3 calves versus 1, so a big advantage for Mishelka. You can see it somewhat in the balancing bar here. Or no, actually, this replay is from Mishelka, I believe. So you cannot actually see it. Quite the opposite. It looks like it's going quite well here for Atlantis. And yeah, obviously, Mishelka needs to fall back here, which means the Shrine and the Sword Dojo are both in control of Atlantis, giving him a really nice stat boost. I mean, theoretically, given that he's already lost the dojos and there's no perspective of really getting them back anytime soon, he can fall back all the way to this forest patch and just chill there for a little bit, keep firing with his RT, and he should be fine. This is slight mismicro here from Mishelka. I think he doesn't need to slow walk here. But now that he's going in, rovers still appear to have now used up their ammunition, but we're able to do some good damage on this bear infantry. And here in this scenario, I think Atlantis was overextending a bit. I think this push was a bit too much, given that he didn't have the proper cavalry support. I think Atlantis could have been fine just pushing the center here with his 150 Marine. And when you're also pushing with the 150 Marine and you're constantly mobile, then it's also more difficult for the artillery to hit you. So I think all Atlantis needed to do here was apply pressure in the center, and he would have been fine. But of course, psychologically, when you're up against an artillery, you always feel like you need to push everywhere because you're constantly harassed and you want the battle to be over as quickly as possible. Now there were some good hits for the RT, up to 110 kills. Very central hit on the Black Tortoise. The Royal Marine now losing to a nicely targeted focus fire from the Bear Infantry. And now this is developing to be over rather soon. So in the end, Mishelka didn't really have a need for these 2 dojos due to the overextension on the left side, and probably even earlier due to the cavalry fight that was nicely won by him and by his double placement of the revolvers. And it looked like the Bushido General of Atlantis, I don't know if he popped Heroic Assault before going in with the calf, but it didn't seem to have too much of an impact. And yeah, here Atlantis conceded the game, which equals the score 1-1. And we'll have a quick look at the unit stats, but I would assume that the Royal Marines didn't get too many kills. Like, I would guess maybe 150 would be my guess, which is still not that high for a Marine unit. But they definitely didn't reach their full potential. Oh, only 80 even, so half that. Yeah, and there you can kind of see where the problem lied in the end. I completely ignored the right flank because, in my opinion, it didn't really matter here in this battle. All the action was on the left and on the center. And the Armstrong guns, I mean, they probably didn't pay for themselves, once again, in isolation, but really the kind of pressure that you put your opponents under when you bring these units is sometimes worth it. Yeah, it just makes them uncomfortable, makes them push earlier than they really need to. And it takes a lot of trigger discipline to just chill and do nothing when you're fired upon by RT. But yeah, nice game. Bold choice by Mishelka. Taking artillery, especially on a map like Rice Fields, can backfire quite hard. There's also always a little bit of an element of luck in there, both in terms of the RNG of the hits, but also like if you're outnumbered in terms of calf, then you're just going to have a problem protecting the Armstrong. That's also just a fact. But either way, this means we're going to have a tiebreaker, and I'm going to hop straight into that one. And we're back on Crossroads, which was the tiebreaker. And positionally, Atlantis is here on the defensive side with the hill in his back, although there's no definitive attacker-defender distinction in the tiebreaker. And yeah, I'll start with Mishelka once again. So his general is unchanged, command with some reload upgrades, so kind of enabled. He has a saber calf on the right, a revolver, another revolver, another saber calf, so 2-2 so far, and then he has 3 Yariki, all of which are ranked on level 2. Infantry-wise, he has Red Bear, Azure Dragon, White Bear, Azure Dragon, Red Bear. So again, he maxed out on the Red Bears. And he has 1 melee unit, however, no Spear Levy. So he brought a Yarikachi rank 2. Although I'm not sure which upgrades he chose. If the increased morale or attack, I mean, that could be from retainers also. So unclear. And Atlantis, already going for a more compact formation, not being spread out as much. So he's effectively giving up the farmhouse and even also the workshop, but he's prioritizing the sword dojo, which is understandable given that he also brought a melee component. So he has a Shogitai, 2 Shogitai, even with upgrades. 1 is level 2, a Spear Levy rank 1, and a Yarikachi rank 1. So very interesting. Then for his infantry, it's obviously going to be a much smaller contingent. He has a Red Bear infantry, a Red Bear rank 2, and another Red Bear. So so far I only see 3 infantry units. And then he also has Yariki revolvers. Yariki is rank 2. Revolvers and 2 more Yariki rank 0 and rank 6. So very old school, typical Bushido style army he brought here. Vastly outnumbered in terms of line infantry and even in terms of cavalry. So the only number advantage he has really is in the melee component. So yeah, very interesting clash in approaches to this map. So even though there's no defender attacker distinction, it's quite clear that Atlantis is going to have to be the attacker here. He has the much more aggressive build. But for Mishelka, he has the added benefit of having this insurance policy in the Yarikachi, which can buy him quite a bit of time when it comes to defending against this vastly superior melee build. Positionally, this is a bit awkward here because both players are very close to the red line. And for it not to be counted as red line camping, you have to be sort of on the move constantly and exerting some forward pressure, you could say. And it's too early to judge by now, but yeah, Mishelka really has to get active here. He's pushing in and around the sword dojo, pop shots here, nothing too fancy. And I just noticed, hold on. Yeah, I think Atlantis mentioned this to me before. I just forgot about it for the first 2 battles. His debuff retainer might not have worked here. So if you compare Red Bear morale 8 versus, oh no, it actually should be working here. This is the difference is explained by the different general types. So Atlantis has this Bushido gen versus the command gen, meaning that the line infantry for Mishelka has an additional point in morale. But I think in the battles before, I failed to point out that I think Atlantis had a morale deficit of 2. Although I do have to rewatch that. I just, yeah, he told me and I completely forgot it while I casted it. So that might have played into effect in the first 2 battles. But yeah, here now I think it should be fixed. I think this is a normal discrepancy, morale-wise. Also no shrine on the battlefield, so everything is all right. But here, Atlantis is now going for the push. Spear Levy absorbing most of the fire as they should. and Atlantis preparing for the full-on attack on the right, even pulling back all his cavalry here, which is usually a signal that a player is going to brute force his way through a flank when you put all your cav on one side, which can work sometimes, but the requirement is that you're really quick, because obviously all these cav units over here from Mishelka, they will be able to wrap around and even get pretty much up close here and use this hilltop as a protection from these infantry units. But in order for that to work, then he really has to get moving here now. So yeah, Mishelka really has to push up, or alternatively send some cav units to his left to defend this push. Looks like the spear levy haven't actually routed yet, which is surprising. Oh no, now they're routing. I was okay. No, they're running backwards, but they're clashing against their own unrushing Shogitai. It's just a weird animation. So they're still in the game. Atlantis trying to do a nice bait and switch here, pulling back the spear levy for a clean charge of the Shogitai, which only worked somewhat. I think the Shogitai rush was still blocked. But either way, this is probably going to get very messy very soon. But there's a nice gap here for Atlantis to get his Yariki through. I don't think he should even commit to this charge. I think he should just use the space here to run around the red bear and to just mop up these couple bear units as quickly as possible, which he can do here. I mean, there's really no fallback option that's realistic and that cannot be effectively pursued. But this Yarikachi is really a pain in the ass for Atlantis right now, because it's not dying as quickly as it should. Probably needs a revolver or something, or I don't know, a line infantry just to get a quick volley in, free these Shogitai of this Yarikachi, so that they can start chasing these line infantry units from Mishelka, who are quite rightly falling back now. So let's get back to normal speed. So yeah, I think this Yariki getting stuck is unnecessary. Just get them out sideways and get them in the back, and yours. Yeah, this red bear would have been dead like 15 seconds ago, and it really comes down to time when you play builds like this.
Your men are routing, sir.
Looks like Atlantis is kind of consolidating here, redirecting his cavalry, putting some back on his left flank, which means either that he's content with what he's achieved so far, or that he thinks he cannot push on. But yeah, he has lost quite a considerable amount of units here, and I think Mishelka can be very happy. Only losing one full bear unit, another one is coming back now, 90 men strength, and even the Yarikachi is coming back, so they can still act as a blocker unit for a second time here. And interestingly, Atlantis now focusing the other side once again, pulling back his melee, his cav. Here I think the approach could be a lot more difficult because of this hillside, so I don't know what he sees here. I think continuing the push down here, and then in the process doing the wraparound, recapping the sword dojo, and then you even have like a sort of a breathing space here where you can rest your push before you keep going. I think this would have been the much more sensible approach. And I think redirecting to this left, facing up against this force on the hill, I don't really see a realistic chance here for Atlantis. I mean, cav-wise, it looks like he lost his rank 6 Yariki, so his most expensive cav unit has already routed off. He still has his 2 revolvers though, so they can do a lot here. There's not a lot of high value targets in terms of the infantry. That's all just bear infantry, Azure Dragon Force. But these 2 revolvers, they need to kill off Mishelka's cavalry, and then there's a realistic chance of coming back here. Even though the power bar is judging this to be quite one-sided already, but that's always the case when you have rush builds with the Bushido gen. So I wouldn't put too much stock in what the power bar says. What's much more a problem is, well, for once, the aforementioned uphill approach, but also the fact that the workshop and the sword dojo are making Mishelka's units much more resilient. The units won't just melt away when getting into contact with the Shogitai. And yeah, that's just one more problem for Atlantis here. Nice proactive reaction from Mishelka. Not intending to just fall back the whole time when Atlantis starts moving his Shogitai, but going on the offensive, using this nice speed advantage of the downhill cavalry to intercept the melee push as early as possible. And in the meantime, these Shogitai are obviously going to get caught as well. Here even routing off with 80 men left in the unit. So this is quite devastating, and yeah, these bear infantries, the line infantry from Mishelka, they're just bystanders at this point, just mowing down the rest. Nice positioning here. Once again from Mishelka's revolver calves. Just like on rice fields, he positioned them next to each other for extra firepower and also to help each other. So when one revolver is caught, the other one can help free it. That's the added benefit of it. But yeah, very interesting game. Of course, there were some, you could say, red line issues, at least in the beginning, where you could have argued that Mishelka needed to be a bit more proactive, or at least give a little bit more space according to the rules. But they both talked about it, they told me, and decided not to petition for a replay. So in that sense, there was no need for me as an admin to become involved. So everything fine in that regard. And yeah, I really have to rewatch the cast of the first two battles. If there really was, if Atlantis really had a problem with his retainers, because I don't think it was the case here in this last battle. Yeah, surprisingly, really nice stats here for the Saber Cav. That's obviously overkill when you're playing against a Bushido melee rush build. Yara Saber Cav can really do a lot, and I mean, given how cheap they are, they really deserve to be the MVPs here. Same with the Yarikachi, only on level 2, holding off Shogitai for a long time. Obviously aided by 2 dojos. And yeah, no unit really standing out here for Atlantis. I think there was an outside chance of winning it if he had continued to push on the right, and if he had been a bit more aggressive with his Cav in terms of exploiting space. So he didn't really need to engage units that early on. He just needed to exploit space. And I think if he had done that a bit quicker, it would have increased his chances of winning. But still, he had a much more difficult build. That is for sure on this map. Just Bushido mix rushes are super difficult to pull off, especially against good players like Mishelka. So props to him for trying. And yeah, after this round, he moves down to the lower bracket, so we will see much more of Atlantis as he tries to fight his way back. And of course, Mishelka moves on to the second round, where he will be playing against me. So I'll probably upload those battles in terms of just a live cast. Either way, congrats to Mishelka, and thanks to you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.